Greetings, students. In this video, I want to show you a couple tips about how to work organizedly in BandLab. After reviewing all of your projects and looking at the way that you guys are working and looking at your workflow, I noticed that there are some very recurrent issues that you guys need to start tackling right now. So when these projects start to get more complex, you find the least amount of problems possible because these are things that I do consider when I'm grading and when I'm assessing. So let's get started. First of all, I am going to be using, this is one of my own personal projects as an example, as a demonstration. Let me show you first how it sounds. Here it goes. All right, it's a little drum and bass that I've been working on. So one of the first things that I see, one of the first things that I want to make reference to and that I see that is very recurrent in some of you is the following. I'm going to open the loop browser and I'm going to add a new loop. I'm going to here to the Joe 4 modern drum and bass breaks because this is the style that I'm making my project in. Let's say that I want to add for example, let's see. Okay, this Joe for messed up flutes. Let's listen first to the loop as it sounds by itself. Okay, there it is. So I am going to drag and drop it here, right? There it is. Now, let me show you the correct way of doing this. Let me close here the loops browser and let me zoom in a little, okay? Like that is okay. Okay, the right way of doing it, if I want to add this, let's say here maybe in bar 7, look at when I move it, I have this white line that accompanies the very, or signals the very beginning of the loop. Okay, I want to align that like this with the very beginning of bar 7. You see that right now is aligned with the line that separates 6 from 7. Okay, I saw that some of you sometimes do something like this. Okay, in that case, it's not aligned with 7, or like this. In this case, it's not aligned with bar 7. You have to make sure that when you drop a loop like this, that you do it at the very beginning of a bar, just like this. Even worse, I saw some of you doing things like this. It's not even at the end of the last beat. It's not even on beat number 4 of 6. It's not even in beat number 1 of 7. It's somewhere in between. What happens with that is that you create rhythmic discrepancies between the instruments that are well aligned and the instruments that are misaligned. When you have them like this, they sound the following way. I want to make it here on number 5 instead, so we can listen to the drums in isolation with the flutes that I just added. Listen how this sounds. Okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to extend this to make it more obvious. I'm going to extend it until number 8, and I am going to now play it. Listen to this. I'm going to give it more volume so we listen to the flutes better, and here it goes. Okay, notice that the rhythm of the flute plays perfectly well as a subdivision of the rhythm of the drums. If I move this over here, for example, listen now how it sounds. It's not going to sound just as good. Listen to this. Okay, maybe it's a little harder to appreciate. I'm going to lower here the speed. I'm going to make it in 80 bits per minute. Yes, adjust everything. Okay, and listen to this now. Okay, I'm gonna make it one more time. I'm gonna align it with number 5. This is the correct way. Listen how it sounds. You see, the rhythm sounds perfectly well, but if I put it over here, listen now the result. I don't know if you notice how they sound like two completely different entities. So please make sure that when you drop your loops, you drop it at the very beginning of a bar. Whatever that bar is, in the very first line of that bar, in the very first beat of that line. Okay, another recurring issue that I saw is that some of you are manipulating your loops when you extend them in a very in a way that you affect the length of it. Remember that I pointed out that for you to extend the loops, you should do it right here in the top right corner. Don't do it through the lower right corner. Why? Because this is what happens. If you try to extend it and make it longer, notice that you don't have any sound over here. But then if you do this by mistake and you go back and you're not careful how you're going back, you can do things like this. For example, you see you can shorten it. And if you shorten it like this, and let me zoom in a little, okay? Look at what happens. If you're not careful with the way that you make it shorter, uh, you're in danger of leaving it like this. You see that this is not aligned with the loop grid, and even worse, it doesn't even reach the entire length of the actual loop. The actual loop ends here. And if you're shortening it over here and then you extend it using the top, then you're extending it on a shorter version, and that is going to affect, again, the rhythm of the loop in relation with the rhythm of the other loops that you have. And then the result is going to sound very strange. It's going to be something like this. Notice over here. Did you notice what happened here? Let me extend it a little bit more so you see the result. Look, at the very beginning it sounds okay, but a little bit before number 7 starts to sound strange. Listen to this. So far so good. Listen what happens over here. Did you notice that switch in the rhythm? That's what happens if you're not careful by dragging the loop here below. That doesn't mean that we are never going to use this. There will be moments in which you will need to cut down the loop to your requirements, but at this moment that is not required. It is not wise to do it. Please be careful when you extend your loops and try to do it from the very top right corner, from here, not from here. Notice that here you have a horizontal double arrow. Here you have a vertical double arrow, like a double bar with a double arrow. Okay, you want to see this, the horizontal double arrow. That's what you want to see. And notice that if I try to cut it here, it doesn't allow me. Okay, so this is how you want to do it. Another recurring issue that I saw that happens a lot, let me zoom out. Okay, that happens a lot also is that this, let's say you are working on your project, you are experimenting, you're dropping in and taking out loops endlessly until you find something that you like how it works. Notice that here, since I added the Joe 4 messed up flutes, the track that is created here for this loop corresponds to the same name. If I just delete it and I add another random instrument, let's say the average breaks in the same one, then I have the following problem, that here my track says Joe 4 mess up flutes and my loop says Joe 4 average break. it's not like it's going to affect the overall sound of your project. I'm aware of that. It's going to sound just as good. But for organization purposes, try to avoid doing it like this. Why? Because you may end up with a bunch of instruments over here in your tracks that don't correspond to the loops that you have over here. And what happens is that when I open your project and I start assessing and I start grading, one of the first things that I see to know if you use the instruments that I required that you use in your projects is to look at this. So if I see over here that it says bass, drums, and guitar, and when I listen to it, I don't listen to a guitar, I listen to an organ, then I know that you haven't been very organized in your workflow. How to avoid that? Once you delete, don't only delete your loop. Once you delete loop, delete your track as well. Right click on the track and here delete the track, just like that, and then you can add the new one. Let's say that you wanted to add the absurd kicks. Here it is, your absurd kicks. Oh, listen to that. I don't know how the absurd kick sound. Don't erase it from here, erase it from here. Go here, delete the track, and then let's see. Okay, I want to add the Joe for delay fall effects. Here it is. Oh, but I don't like how it sounds. I hate it. Then don't delete from here. Delete from here. Right click, delete track. Okay, guys, I hope that with these tips, you start working a little bit more organizedly in your projects. See you next time.